In a stunning turn of events that could reshape Middle Eastern geopolitics, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has officially confirmed that Israel has accepted former U.S. President Donald Trump's latest proposal for a ceasefire with the Islamic Republic of Iran. The announcement came after weeks of rising tensions, behind-the-scenes diplomacy, and increasing international pressure to de-escalate what many feared could become a full-scale regional war. In a press conference held in Jerusalem late Sunday evening, Netanyahu, flanked by top Israeli security officials and diplomats, addressed the nation and the world. His tone was serious, yet surprisingly conciliatory. After extensive discussions with our allies, especially with President Trump and his delegation, Netanyahu began, "We have agreed, in principle, to a ceasefire arrangement with Iran. This proposal reflects the urgent need to prevent further bloodshed while protecting the vital interests of the State of Israel." The confirmation ends days of speculation about secret talks mediated by Trump, who has re-emerged on the global stage as a self-appointed peacemaker between two longtime adversaries. According to sources close to the negotiations, the former U.S. president personally reached out to both sides in a series of private calls and exchanges, leveraging his historic ties with both Netanyahu and certain Iranian intermediaries. The ceasefire proposal, reportedly crafted by a team of former U.S. diplomats, military advisors, and intelligence analysts under Trump's direction, includes several key conditions: a complete halt to cross-border missile and drone attacks by both sides, the reopening of indirect back-channel communications between Tel Aviv and Tehran, a temporary freeze on Israeli air operations in Syrian and Lebanese airspace, international monitoring of Iranian military deployments near Israeli borders. While the specific details of the agreement remain classified, Israeli officials have expressed cautious optimism. "We are not naive," Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said during the same press briefing, "but we recognize that diplomacy, especially when backed by strength, can sometimes succeed where war would only multiply our losses." The reaction from within Israel has been mixed. Some right-wing political factions, traditionally close to Netanyahu, have expressed concern that the ceasefire could signal weakness, particularly in the face of continued threats from Iranian-backed groups such as Hezbollah and the Houthis. On the other hand, moderate and left-leaning Israelis have largely welcomed the move, seeing it as a necessary step to avoid further escalation and international isolation. Internationally, the response has been swift. The European Union praised the development, calling it a significant opportunity to reduce tensions and restore a measure of stability in a volatile region. China and Russia, both of whom maintain strong ties with Iran, have reportedly been briefed on the plan and have offered support for any multilateral mechanisms to monitor compliance. Trump, for his part, took to his social media platform Truth Social shortly after Netanyahu's press conference. In his post, he wrote, "I always said, peace is possible when strong leaders come together. Great work by Bibi, Netanyahu. Let's hope the Iranians show the same maturity. America is back to keeping peace again, without sending our troops." Iran, however, has not yet issued a formal public response. Sources close to Iran's Supreme National Security Council indicated that Tehran is reviewing the proposal seriously, but would not commit to anything until its own strategic conditions were considered, including the lifting of certain sanctions and recognition of Iranian sovereignty over sensitive regional matters. In response to Netanyahu's statement and Trump's announcement, Iranian political circles in Tehran were immediately thrown into strategic discussions. While no official rejection or acceptance was issued from President Ebrahim Raisi or Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, insiders suggested that the offer is not being taken lightly. A senior Iranian diplomat, speaking to Al Jazeera under condition of anonymity, said, "Iran is open to dialogue, when done with respect. If Israel truly seeks de-escalation, then we expect mutual actions, not just declarations." Reports from Tehran indicate that Iran's Security Council convened an emergency meeting shortly after the press conference in Jerusalem. The agenda reportedly included reviewing Trump's ceasefire plan, evaluating the risks of continued conflict, and considering how Iran could secure regional and international legitimacy without appearing to compromise its sovereignty. Iran's demands are expected to include removal of select economic sanctions imposed by the U.S. during Trump's presidency, halt to Israeli intelligence operations inside Iran, international guarantees for protection of Iranian allies in Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen, a reduction in Israel's military cooperation with Gulf states. So far, no Iranian missile attacks have been recorded in the past 48 hours, which experts see as a possible informal pause or testing of intentions. U.S. administration remains divided on Trump's initiative. While Donald Trump has placed himself at the center of the proposed ceasefire, the current U.S. administration under President Joe Biden has taken a more cautious approach. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, when asked about the development, said, "Any effort that leads to peace is welcome. But we must ensure it's not a photo op, but a real and verifiable process." Internal divisions have emerged in Washington. While Republican senators have largely praised Trump's bold move, many Democrats argue that Trump lacks the authority or legitimacy to negotiate peace deals on behalf of the U.S. government. Nonetheless, Trump's influence over Israeli leadership and parts of the U.S. military-industrial complex remains undeniable. The Pentagon has remained neutral so far, though it has issued a directive to keep U.S. military forces in Iraq, Qatar, and the Mediterranean on high alert until clarity emerges. Hezbollah, Hamas, and regional proxies watch closely. One of the biggest unknowns in this equation remains the role of non-state actors, specifically Hezbollah, Hamas, and Iranian-linked militias operating in Syria and Iraq. These groups have yet to issue a unified response to the ceasefire proposal. However, a commander within Hezbollah told Lebanese media, "Any deal made without consulting the resistance is invalid. We do not trust Netanyahu or Trump. Our weapons remain ready." Israel is reportedly concerned that while a state-level ceasefire may emerge, proxy attacks and sabotage efforts could continue, disrupting any hopes of a lasting truce. In Gaza, local leaders have warned of a possible betrayal. If Tel Aviv and Washington strike a deal without addressing Palestinian suffering, we will consider it a hostile act, said a Hamas spokesperson. Global powers move quickly: Russia, China, and the EU. As news spread across global capitals, Russia and China both expressed measured optimism. A Russian Foreign Ministry statement said, "We welcome any move away from escalation, but we advise all parties to respect existing regional balances and avoid unilateral aggression." China, increasingly seen as a power broker in the Middle East, offered to host a follow-up summit between Israeli, Iranian, and U.S. delegations, possibly in Beijing. The European Union announced that it would send a fact-finding team to Jerusalem and Tehran to assess the climate and help draft a stabilization framework should both parties proceed with the deal. Israel faces internal pushback from military and intelligence officials. While Prime Minister Netanyahu presented a unified front at the press conference, behind closed doors, deep divisions are emerging within Israel's own security establishment. Sources from the IDF, Israel Defense Forces, confirm that top-ranking generals and intelligence heads were not consulted in full before Netanyahu accepted Trump's ceasefire terms. An anonymous Shin Bet officer told Haaretz, "This move was political, not strategic. Iran hasn't backed down militarily, and yet we're signaling compromise." Many within Mossad, the foreign intelligence agency, are also raising alarms. Mossad has reportedly warned the Prime Minister's office that Iran's nuclear progress and regional influence remain an immediate existential threat, and that any ceasefire may only give Tehran time to regroup and strike harder later. Within the Knesset, Israeli parliament, ultra-nationalist lawmakers have accused Netanyahu of betraying Israel's security doctrine. One opposition member shouted during a heated session, "You are trusting Trump more than our generals." Protests have erupted in Tel Aviv and Haifa, with demonstrators waving banners reading, "No peace with terror," and "Trump can't negotiate for Israel." Netanyahu's office has dismissed the criticism as reactionary panic, but political pressure is mounting. Iran's military divided. Hardliners resist in Tehran, while the top leadership officially remains silent. Tensions are brewing within Iran's powerful Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC. Leaked audio from a closed-door meeting reveals sharp disagreements between IRGC commanders and Iran's foreign ministry. Some hardline generals have accused President Raisi's team of being too open to Western manipulation, warning that accepting Trump's plan could undermine Iran's ideological authority in the region. "Ceasefire with Zionists is surrender," said General Mohsen Karazi in the recording. "We fought for decades to establish deterrence. Trump cannot undo it in a phone call." Meanwhile, Iran's elite Quds force has reportedly paused all forward operations in Syria and Iraq temporarily, but sources say this is a tactical pause, not a sign of long-term peace. Tehran is also watching how Israel treats Palestinian issues. Any indication that Palestinian demands are ignored could cause the entire negotiation to collapse. United States Trump under fire in Washington. As leaks emerge back in the United States, former President Trump is facing his own share of backlash. A leaked briefing document, allegedly prepared by his advisory team, surfaced on investigative media site The Intercept. It reveals that part of Trump's motivation for the ceasefire initiative is to boost his 2026 presidential campaign by claiming a historic peace achievement. The document includes polling data, branding language, and social media strategy, not typical of diplomatic documents. This has fueled accusations that Trump is prioritizing political optics over global security. One Democratic congressman tweeted, "You can't negotiate with nukes for likes and follows." At the same time, Trump's supporters have defended his actions, saying that no one else has come closer to ending Middle East wars than Trump. Trump's media presence has surged again, with primetime interviews and viral speeches. But critics fear he is reviving himself at the cost of global stability. Leaked intelligence raises new questions. Adding fuel to the fire, a European intelligence report leaked via Der Spiegel claims that Iran is moving missile batteries closer to the Golan Heights despite the ceasefire talks. The satellite imagery suggests recent mobilizations of long-range rocket systems near Quneitra, a Syrian town bordering Israeli-controlled areas. If verified, this move could violate the spirit of the ceasefire and may signal that Iran is preparing for deterrent readiness in case Israel pulls out or stages a false flag operation. Israel has denied any provocation and says it is monitoring the situation. Media frenzy and public reactions. The global media is on fire. News outlets from New York to New Delhi have placed the Israel-Iran ceasefire on top of their headlines. Pundits are calling it the most fragile peace in modern history. Public reactions are polarized. On social media, pro-peace users trend hashtags like Chakr ceasefire now, Chakr Trump peace deal, and Charter Middle East Hope critics trend Charter's Iran trap, Chak Trump deal fail, and Chak no peace with terror memes, commentaries, and analysis are flooding YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, making this a viral moment in world politics. Is peace real, or just another political game? As Trump's ceasefire plan grabs global headlines, a haunting question remains. Is this a real move toward peace, or just another geopolitical stage play? International observers are split. While some diplomats from the UN and the Arab League are cautiously optimistic, many intelligence experts warn that neither Israel nor Iran has disarmed or reduced alert levels. Satellite data from NATO-aligned surveillance confirms continued troop movements, air patrols, and drone surveillance on both sides. One former U.S. general stated on CNN, "This is a political ceasefire, not a military one. Both sides are reloading, not retreating." China and Saudi Arabia step in to mediate. In a dramatic diplomatic shift, China and Saudi Arabia have stepped in to stabilize the situation. Beijing has offered to host a trilateral summit between Israel, Iran, and a U.S. delegation. Whether Biden or Trump-backed remains unclear. Meanwhile, Riyadh has proposed an Islamic regional security pact, promising Iran that Sunni nations would guarantee its sovereignty in exchange for calm. This development has shaken traditional alliances. Some Gulf countries fear that Saudi overtures to Iran may weaken their ties with Israel and the West. But many experts believe that this multilateral involvement is the only way to ensure that the Trump deal doesn't collapse within weeks. Breaking point or turning point? Tensions briefly reignited when an Israeli airstrike accidentally hit a Syrian radar station, which Iran claimed was part of its defensive umbrella. Tehran responded with a strongly worded statement calling the strike an act of bad faith. However, both sides quickly de-escalated after urgent communication via Swiss diplomatic channels. This close call exposed how fragile the peace is. A single drone, missile, or mistake could trigger full-scale war, despite the ceasefire agreement. "We are walking on a razor's edge," said a French official. "One wrong step, and everything burns." Trump's motives still under question. Despite temporary success, Trump's motives remain under scrutiny. Analysts point out that his peace plan bypassed official U.S. State Department procedures, excluded Palestinian leadership from the process, and came at a time when his 2026 campaign is heating up. Yet, his ability to move Netanyahu and Iran toward a table, even unofficially, cannot be denied. His loyalists now refer to him as the peace president, while critics call the plan theatrics with nukes. The public's verdict: hope, confusion, and suspicion. Across the globe, people are divided. In Israel, some families of IDF soldiers see hope. Others fear it's a trap. In Iran, some citizens welcome an end to sanctions and war threats. Others worry that their government is being fooled by American games in the U.S. The public is stunned that Trump, not Biden, is steering Middle East peace. Meanwhile, social media remains ablaze, with influencers, analysts, and even AI-generated war simulations debating, what if this fails? Final thoughts. What comes next? The Israel-Iran ceasefire, backed unofficially by Trump, is real but vulnerable. Until both sides show military restraint, regional allies are brought in, and a permanent diplomatic framework is signed. This remains a pause, not peace. As one analyst put it, this is not the end of war. This is just the world catching its breath.